I want to start with and emphasize that sensible people need to agree that what happened on October 7th was a deadliest massacre of Jewish people since Holocaust.
Yeah.
And if you don't agree with that, you're just an ignorant, uneducated, and hateful anti-Semite. Because if we can't agree on this basic premise, then there should be and there cannot be any civil debate or
There's no
discussion.
conversation, of course, none.
Nothing. I mean, the barbaric act that Hamas, the terrorists of Hamas, have committed, beheading babies, burning people,
Families
children,
alive,
women,
just
raping, the abducting of the civilians off the streets.
Mhm.
And then in most of the cases, they were parading those either dead bodies or live human beings on the streets of Gaza. So whoever is coming on to talk about it, they need to first and foremost agree and acknowledge and condemn the attacks that have happened on October the 7th.
Yep.
Also, the point of emphasis should be made that the attack didn't happen on October the 7th. Israel has been bombed with rockets from Gaza on daily basis. Thank God, Israelis and Americans together, produced an Iron Dome, which is a defensive weapon. It protects the civilians from these acts of barbarism. You're just shooting rockets, not on military installations. You're shooting rockets at cities, towns, buildings, houses,
hospitals,
schools. So basically, what Iron Dome was able to do is prevent Israel from going into Gaza. Because let me give you an example, right? Let's say you live in Texas and I live in Arizona, and Mexico decides to attack either Texanians or Arizonans. And they say, you know what, let's cross the border, let's kill 1,200 people, and we're going to go back to Mexico and just hide and see what the United States is going to do. What do you think? The United States is going to sit quietly and not respond when its border has been breached, its people have been murdered and raped and savagely slaughtered at a music festival? What would any other civilized country do if it was not Israel? I mean, you have all these, and I call them cause jumpers. They're jumping for causes. First it was Occupy Wall Street. Then it morphed into Me Too movement.
Right.
Then it morphed into the BLM, the Occupy and Destroy whatever you see in front of you.
Right.
And now it's very popular to just join, the Free Palestine movement. Free of what? What are you exactly freeing?
Exactly.
You're freeing Palestine of the Hamas terror, or the chant from the river to the sea is basically a chant for a genocide. You want to eliminate one group of people. I'm sure many people don't even know what they're saying. If we're able to post on this podcast, I'll show you an actual ad from Craigslist that paid individuals $25 to $30 an hour to join in these, what I call them useful idiots. Now, I'm not saying what Israel has done is 100% in agreement with international community. It's always been that Israel gets blamed for minor infractions.
Yeah.
Now, you could say, how can you justify the killing of innocent people, minor infractions? I'm not referring to what's happening after October the 7th. I'm referring to what Israel has been doing before October the 7th, the using of the Iron Dome. I'm going back to the example that I gave, how Mexico would attack the United States, either in Arizona or in Texas. Would the United States just sit quiet? No, they drop a bomb. Nuclear weapons are
Exactly.
possession of the United States. Nuclear weapons are in possession of Israel. If Israel wanted to do a major damage, they didn't need to do these tactical movements and, go in with soldiers into these dangerous tunnels, not knowing what these soldiers are going to encounter, to seek out, um, the human life, to seek out these hostages, to seek out what's happening. I mean, what kind of people would hide behind, civilians? And Israel would never do that. Israel protects the civilians and demands, responsibility for every life in Israel, be it a
Because it's
Muslim life, a
also
Christian
right.
life,
It's
or a
our
Jewish life.
culture. We fight for life.
Correct. Now, Hamas operates differently. They're hiding behind, human shields, these babies in hospitals and schools. The tunnels are on the hospitals, on the mosques. And, for Israel to go in there and to do what they're doing, to rid the Palestinian people from this terror organization, is what they need to do. I mean, the main objective of Israel is to destroy Hamas, and until Hamas is removed, this war cannot end and should not end. All those that are calling for ceasefire, they need to understand ceasefire would basically mean that Hamas won, the terrorists won, and why would Hamas be asking for a ceasefire at this point? Because they're losing the war.
Because they've done it before. They asked for a ceasefire after attacking, and then right after there's a ceasefire, there's another attack.
This war, this operation by Israel in Gaza, will have to end with an end of Hamas. That's the only end result that should come out from this war. Israel has an absolute right to defend itself.
Yep.
It has a duty and responsibility to protect its citizens and its people. And let's remember, on 9/11, the same people in Gaza were celebrating.
Yep, giving out candy.
Giving out candies. For them, it was a victory.
Yeah.
This was the worst terror attack on the U.S. soil, the deadliest. And the same so-called innocent civilians.
Right. We're
Celebrated
parading on
that.
the streets, celebrating. Yep.
Now, a lot of TikTok videos are gonna, influence and brainwash you by saying, oh, a lot of Palestinians are dying. But I feel that if you are celebrating October 7th with Hamas, you're not that innocent. You're complicit. You're complicit in every act of this barbaric terroristic group.
Yep.
Only savages can kill over 1,200 babies and mothers and grandmothers and drag them,
record it,
the border,
and post it online, and scream in the name of Allah.
and boast. I mean, look, they want to talk about Nazis, right? I mean, Nazis. They were saying that Nazis officers, they had trauma. They were trying to hide the evil.
Yeah.
Well, Hamas is boasting about their evil. They're actually, they want the world to know that what they did, how they did it. And the leaders of Hamas, they say it was only a rehearsal. We're going to do it again and again and again and again. Now, what kind of ceasefire you can talk about?
Right.
Another question that I want to ask these pro-Palestinian supporters. Ask yourself a question. Billions of dollars are pouring into a Palestinian Authority, specifically into Gaza. Why there aren't any leaders that live in Gaza? All the leaders of Hamas, they live in Doha, in Qatar. They're actually negotiating with Israel through Qatarian government. Ask yourself, why wouldn't they live in a land that they supposedly protect and love so much? Israelis live in Israel. Israeli government is in Israel.
Yep.
Why would these so-called leaders be in another country? That's question number one that I would like to pose. Question number two is Iran is behind these attacks. Why behind these attacks? Because Iran, well, let's understand the region, right? So Iran wants to be the dominating power in Middle East. And it's a thorn in many countries' eyes. For example, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, Qatar, Kuwait. These are all rich countries that want peace and prosperity for themselves and for their citizens.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Iran wants to destabilize the entire Middle East. You know, if you remember, you might not have been born yet. In 1978,
Nope.
Anwar Sadat, he was a president of Egypt.
Mm-hmm.
He was involved in 4 wars with Israel. One of them he initiated. At the end of the day, he said, you know what? I can no longer do this. It's bad for my people, and it's bad for your people. Him, Jimmy Carter, the president of the United States at the time, and Menachem Begin, they got together and they said, you know what? Let's make peace. And since 1978, that was the only country in the Middle East that recognized Israel and its establishment. Since then, we had Abraham Accords that were initiated by former President Trump. And 4 more countries joined in recognition of Israel: Bahrain, United Arab Emirates, Sudan, and was one other country. There was one other country. It escapes my name now. Why you would ask these Arab countries want peace with Israel? Because at the end of the day, that's what civil nations do.
Yep.
They seek peace. They want prosperity and peace for their citizens. Unless you are a hateful organization like Hamas that wants to destroy and kill Jewish people purely for them being Jewish, I don't see any other reason.
But also for money. How much money they made so far? Billions of dollars.
Billions of dollars. Billions of
War
dollars.
is always gonna bring you money. Come on.
Now, Morocco, that's the 4th country that Bahrain, Morocco, United Arab Emirates, and Sudan were added to Egypt as countries that have dual agreements, with Israel, and they recognized Israel's sovereignty and they established full diplomatic relations. Now, why it's important? It's important because on October 8th, Israel was supposed to have a high-level meeting with Saudis, and Iran, not wanting that to happen, not wanting to be on a sideline in the region, they pushed a button and they made Hamas do what they did.
I'm like, wow, the day before.
So it's important for people to understand not just the format of what's happening now, but why it happened. That day has a significance in the Arab world. Since then, the Prince of Saudi Arabia said, well, just because we didn't meet doesn't mean we're not going to have peace with Israel and not going to recognize Israel. They will. Eventually, they will.
So if they're recognizing Israel as a state, that means they're Zionists, isn't that?
Well, if you yes, they're recognizing Israel as a full-fledged state and sovereign nation to allow, because you have to remember why they're doing it. It's 40 Arab nations and 1 Israel. Israel is a beacon of hope in the entire region.
Yep.
That's the only democracy in the region. Now, people will say, oh, United States is complicit in what Israel is doing. I'm going to be honest with those people. If Israel doesn't stop this wave of terror, this wave of terror is going to come to us here in the United States. And they're already talking about it. There might be another terrorist attack, there might be another plane, God knows what, when you're dealing with people that hate you and hate your way of life, they're ready to die for any cause, no cause or any cause. And that's what Israel is dealing with. And it's a very, very difficult battle.
A lot of good people are losing their life for literally no
A
reason.
lot of innocent, not only good, a lot of innocent people are losing their lives. It's a shame that Hamas was chosen to be the governing body for Gaza. I mean, if you look at the map, Gaza is a coastal port city that should be a paradise for economy. It should be, some people I heard were calling it like a Singapore of Middle East. It could have been a Singapore of Middle East, but instead, Hamas decided to steal the money that international human organizations, donated for prosperity, for economy, for boom of Gaza. It went into the pockets of terrorists to enrich themselves, to live in mansions in Doha. Another interesting historical fact, in 2005, late 2005, beginning of 2006, Israel left Gaza. It was basically occupying Gaza for security reasons, because they wanted to prevent these attacks. If you remember, there were cafe, bus stops, inside the bus, discotheques. These terrorists were going in and just blowing themselves up. So Israel basically built a wall, and said, we have to monitor who is coming in and out, because we're a peaceful nation. We want our citizens to prosper. We don't want to live under fear, constant fear that any day we can be in a bus and we could be blown up. So I don't condone what Israel did. I support them in their effort to protect its citizens. So what happened in 2006? They said, you know what? We're going to leave you alone. We're going to withdraw our troops. We're going to let you self-govern yourself. And Israel has built a lot of beautiful amenities in Gaza. They left 10 greenhouses, that were supposed to be used for agriculture, for beautiful fruits and produce, for people to enjoy. So instead, what did Hamas do when they came to power? They took the pipes that were providing water to these greenhouses, and they used them to make rockets that Hamas uses till this day to send to Israel, to bomb civilians, buildings, schools, churches, synagogues,
hospitals.
So it's a shame that we talk about this, but we have to talk about this, because people that fail to recognize and learn from history are bound to repeat it again. So I believe awareness and proper awareness is extremely important in this sensitive conflict, because this conflict is very hard to restart. I'm talking about the peace process. How do you restart a peace process with a territory or people that want to destroy you? How do you sit at the table? I sometimes find it very difficult to sit at the same table with people that I don't know. Imagine sitting at the table with people that want to kill you. So obviously Israel is going to do what's best for its citizens. The international community is applying a lot of pressure to Israel to basically cease fire. That's all they want to talk about, ceasefire. But how do you cease fire when the leaders of Hamas are telling you openly, we're going to do it again and again?
Right.
Another question that I want to pose is, there are 40 Arab nations. Not one of them want to take a single Palestinian refugee into their country.
Yep.
Why?
Just don't know better.
So we need to know what we're dealing with before we start, labeling,
Throwing everything
chanting.
at Israel is not okay. allowing Israel to be the only little country there in the Middle East to take care of Gazans, it's not their responsibility.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But Israel is willing to, despite of what happened on October the 7th, and despite that what has been happening for years, decades, Israel is still willing to provide protection, not only for Israelis, but for Palestinians as well. Those that are calling genocide, it's genocide. Look up the definition in a dictionary, what genocide is. Palestinian population has grown, tripled in the last 40 years.
In the
Look
last
at the
10 years, not
statistics.
just 40, 10 years.
Look at the statistics within Israel.
Mm-hmm.
You have close to 68, 70% Jewish in Israel and 24% Arabs. Now ask these Israeli Arabs to go to live in Gaza or West Bank. They would never accept it.
No.
So, I mean, the message is clear. It's a divide between good and evil.
Yeah.
And until this evil is eradicated, they cannot be a ceasefire. They cannot be an end to this war.
Absolutely not. I think historically it's been proven that you cannot make peace with people who genuinely
the United States doesn't even negotiate with terrorists.
Right, they don't. They don't.
And
people in Gaza are very lucky that Israel didn't just bomb the crap out of Gaza on October 8th.
And they could, and
they could.
That's what I look. As I mentioned earlier, Israel has a nuclear arsenal, right?
Right.
For them, it's a matter of pressing a button and
Literally,
completely leveling
Mhm.
Gaza and its 2.2 million inhabitants.
Yep.
But Israel is not doing that. They're using tactical maneuvering. They're warning the occupants of buildings and territories to move north or move south or move to another location because the rocket came from that building. We need to destroy the artillery. We want to prevent future attacks. So I believe Israel army is very, very humane. Like no other country in the world. No other country in the world will do what Israel is doing. This tactical precision, the drone strikes.
Yeah.
So I'm very happy that you decided to bring this subject to light. I believe it's the most important subject right now. There are obviously contentious subjects on both sides.
Mm-hmm.
I could see the arguments. I don't agree with them on the other side. I could see them. I could talk about them. We could discuss. I'll be more than happy, to have a healthy civil debate and discussion with any guests that you decide to bring onto the conversation.
Absolutely. So thank you so much for coming, Romka.
It's my pleasure.
For those of you who don't know, this is a small little podcast that I'm having. This is Marina with How I Got Here. God being, the closer we are to God, he just guides us everywhere. And in this case, would be Israel, how Israel got here. The story is, the history of our people is, the more I dive into it, the more I'm like, oh my God, I'm so proud of my people. There's nothing on this planet, and you know me, right? We've known each other for so long.
Right.
I'm a well-known, I guess you could say, like a rebellious child, right? I'm not religious and I'm not here nor there. I'm just I have a lot of integrity for humanity, period. That's it. So, but after October
It's important
7th,
to have,
right.
those are the golden words. You just said
Right.
it. It's integrity.
Integrity is everything. It doesn't matter what your skin color is. It doesn't matter what your nationality is, religion, gender. If you don't have, integrity, you're nothing. You're not important, because humanity is all about integrity. So when you're dealing with people who genuinely, first of all, don't know you, second of all, do not even acknowledge your existence, you can't even talk to them.
Can't.
So, I guess our message here mostly would be, Israel is always going to thrive because it's always been an asset to society. And whether you believe it or not, whether you like Jews or not, sometimes I hear people say, we like Jewish people, but we don't like Zionists. being a Zionist, honestly, before the word Zionist screamed on my, social platforms, I didn't know anything about it. So I Googled it. It literally means if you believe that the state of Israel should exist, and I do, so that makes me a Zionist. That does not make me a terrorist. That does not make me, a savage, or it just makes me someone that believes that Israel should exist. And okay, and people, I think, just want to believe in something, and those that are lost just want to believe in something. I mean, go ahead and believe in whatever you want to believe in, but creating a genocide for a nation that is so small and actually very humane. Like if you walk down the street, you will never say, "Oh, I went to a Jewish location and some Jewish guy just ran into me and smacked me and stole my groceries." We don't do that. We will help you get your groceries and help you get what you want. This is who we are. So unless you see it, or maybe you just don't comprehend that those little things is what makes up a Jewish person. We are, the type of nation that with only $5 in our pocket will give you three, and we'll call you and make sure, hey, listen, you got home okay? This is what makes you a Jewish person. It's not the religion, or not just the religion. It's not living in Israel or being Jewish. It's the humanity portion of us.
Correct.
So, welcome to the club if you want to be part of it. If not, to be honest with you, I don't think anybody's going to sit here and explain ourselves of why you think or we think we should exist. We already exist, and it's going to happen because God is our biggest ally.